In this video, we're going to do some more advanced motions. So let's say I want Barbie to walk across the sand, but then once she gets to a certain point, she's going to jump over the pool, which I have modeled by this quadratic equation that you see here. Remember, quadratic equations form a parabola shape. And so if you want to just take the standard quadratic equation, that's just x squared, but I want to make it upside down to make sort of an arch shape. And then I want to start it a little higher. So I'm just kind of playing with the variables here. So she's got big ups if she can go that high. Let's make her only go that high. And you might think, well, if I want to make it start, like intersect the line right here and jump right here. Well, we can do that by making it wider or skinnier if you put a number in front. Like think of it as slope, like linear equations. But if you make it like a decimal, a number less than 1, you can make it wider also. So what I'm using is a piecewise function, which you may have seen on a previous video linked on Google Classroom. From -10 to -5, it's going to follow the P of X rule, which means her height is just going to stay her Y coordinate, which I have the F2 function in her Y coordinate, is going to follow this 1.25x. But an easy way to find out where you should start and stop these is if I look at these two things right here. Let's set this to -6.519. So right here, -6.519. And then once it hits that value, -6.519, it's going to follow the other value, the other function, which is going to be q of x, which is that parabola. And then I want to follow that all the way up until positive. Let's see where it intersects right here again. It'll intersect at positive 6.519. So I'll follow that function until positive 6.519. And watch what happens. If I start at -10 and I play the slider, she jumps, goes over and lands. And well, here's the thing, then she just disappears right here. So let's say I want her to, from this value right here, 6.519 all the way to the end, which you could say is 10 since the slider only goes to 10. I can add another piece to my piecewise function by, after the last function, putting a comma and then saying for the value 6.519 less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 10. And now she jumps over, she lands, and whoops. By default, if you notice why it's doing that, by default, if you don't put anything, it assumes it's a 1. But I, of course, want it to be the p of x function right here, and so she lands right there. And I don't want these things in the way, so again, them to follow the path just kind of magically. You just make the functions disappear, and you can make it look a little nicer. One other thing is instead of typing these functions, even though that's a really easy way to do it, notice how instead of typing the q of x, okay, I'm going to replace where I have q of x right here with the definition of what q of x is, what the function q of x is. And you'll notice it won't mess up with the path at all. So you can either see how she's still jumping along that same parabola. Although I do think it's nicer so that you can see your intersections and plan it out whenever you introduce your little piecewise path. And it can be, it can be a linear path combined with just a quadratic and just keep following that quadratic. It could be two linear paths. You could use any curve or any kind of function that you want. But that's how to use piecewise functions to kind of change the path of one object in Desmos.